recording and we are live.
We are live.
Bang, 3 o'clock here. Like, I congratulate us to being very on time. Hi, Shireen.
I know. Isn't it great? We're on time. Well, we are on time in general, are we not? I think we're pretty good at being on time. It's just that sometimes time runs away with us. That's all. And we enjoy it.
That's true. That's true. But I like to play always like with being in the order. It's the masculine.
Yeah.
And so especially today, I have to really rush off because I have my painting classes on Saturdays.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So I like to build this riverbed, the foundation, and then invite the flow, and then obviously go with the flow. And this is co-creation between the masculine and the feminine. So
important.
How are you today after yesterday's initiation of the goddess?
It was really interesting because things started to open up in a different way. And then last night I spoke to a friend of mine who's also a shaman. And we started talking. She's in Australia right now, but she's from my home country, South Africa. And so really talking about the changes and the shifts that are happening in the world right now. And we were really having that lovely conversation. And then this morning I was just thinking about communication, and which is the communicator, the second one. And but yesterday what I did was I had finished. Oh, I put it in my bra. So I'm gonna let me find it. Can I find it? No, that's not. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I took it out earlier. So yes, and I've decided to put it on gold paper actually. So I've got gold paper that I'm now putting things in. So I thought gold is nice because it's a nice, beautiful color, and put the affirmation in gold, which so everything's close to my heart. So and really, there was something really beautiful about just kind of going back to what as a child, what I used to do. I always used to have things, and I used to squirrel away and be like we are as magical women, holding and creating potions and charms. And now it's kind of like, oh wow, I can get back to that. And I have you to thank for that actually, because I don't think if we hadn't started our journey, I would have not got back to that. Or at least I would have done it later. So I'm really grateful for that. Really grateful.
And I'm so grateful because without this co-creation of giving space and the commitment to connect with each other and being witnessed and doing it together, those energies and the miracles would not happen in our life.
Yeah.
So I'm thanking you also from the bottom of my heart, because otherwise it's in the book and these are beautiful symbols, but they're not alive within us. So it's down to us who give the space and come together and witness and share how we more and more receive the gifts from the spirits, from the gods and the signs. So thank you as well.
Pleasure. Yes. What's been happening for you?
Oh, since yesterday, I mean, sent these reports. Like, for me, I like to make those interwoven connections. So that's why I posted also this analysis from the rune, this Equus rune.
Yes.
Made me bring on the path of like looking up about the Ruckworth, which Mary also kindly shared. Thank you, Mary, if you're watching or watching later.
That was beautiful, wasn't it? That was the black on the red on the black and the white. Yes, it's beautiful.
Well, I've asked about if somebody knows about the herb Ruckworth, the plant, and the essential oil. And then she sent me some information about it. So thank you for that. And it brought me on the path of Freya, which I started to research. And I already started to write my own journal, actually. And that's what I'm planning to do throughout this whole journey, like everything which is coming up, adding to it. And alone, I would have never got this interconnection. Oh, this is connected to Freya, like the rune Equus, to Freya and Freya. So now I'm really excited. I put it in my diary, and I'm going to return back to that and see what's going to happen, because it's an initiation.
Yes, exactly.
We open ourselves up to this energy, and there are limitless possibilities. What could happen now?
Exactly. And when we look at the echos, which was really interesting. For me, in the symbol in the Kabbalah, it's Mem, which is actually mother, and the eternal order. So here it doesn't strike me as strange that it's connected to Freya, given that she's the mother of all. Yeah. So that kind of allows us to see it right across different traditions and different spectrums. So that's really beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. And this is just day one. This was just day one. Welcome to day two. We could write a whole book about each goddess. I mean, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
And should we open now the space for the Beregini?
Yes, let's do that.
Of the Communicator. This is the one. I tried to put the background, but it didn't work. But I did send it in the group.
Yes,
like in our group, so you can look it up, and here it is again. And the Communicator stands. So the first 3 days are all connected to the first circle, and there are 9 altogether, like the 9 dimensions of the word to Yggdrasil. So we are still in the first circle. Yesterday, starting with the roots. No, that's not true. Sorry, correct me. We started with Prav, which is the divine world. Now we're coming to the physical world where we live. In Slavic tradition, it's called the Yav world of the Communicator or bridge builder. The affirmation is, I pass on communication from the divine to the earth. This symbol can invite people, spirit guides, all other energies of service. It can be used to resolve conflicts. And I interpret it in a wider sense, like for any kind of communication, to bring it into the flow.
So you're going to light the candle?
Yes.
Lovely.
We light the candle, if it's working. I think the candle is likes to play with me. Yesterday it did work. I actually had to get up to get it to work. Now it's not working again. I've got another one. Oh, I'm prepared. So let's invite in the Communicator with a word prayer. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all beings remain free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings remain connected to sacred joy and happiness that is totally free from sorrow. May all beings come to rest in feeling of security and peace. May all beings be happy, content, and fulfilled. And so be it.
And so be it. It is done.
Would you like to gift us with a tarot card?
Yes, I'll gift you with a tarot card. Okay, I'll just pull from the deck. Take that one. All right. The Alchemy of the Tower. Well, that's interesting. Right. Can you see the bottom?
Well, I immediately have to think about the Tower of Babel, which has got all to do with communication.
Exactly. But isn't that amazing? We picked that one up. Right. So the Alchemy of the Tower, certainly the story of Babel is like baby Babel. and on when people are not, when we kind of get confused or we kind of talk on and on, we're babbling. And so really babbling is kind of the idea that we're not communicating correctly. We're not bringing our thoughts down to the earth plane enough so that we can understand them and communicate them. But also the alchemy of the tower, I don't know whether you remember, but the tower is kind of like, you have a tower, but it's on a very big rock. So even though the tower is all about getting rid of all the old stuff, it's built on this rock, which means that there's always something solid there that's left behind, no matter what disappears. So there's always a really good remembrance of the fact, if you have going through a bit of change in your life, or you're doing some massive change in the sense, oh, my light's gone again. So if you do massive change, then it's really important to kind of remember there's still this bit of you that's always there, the soul, spirit, that's always there, and you can do anything as long as you can connect back to that. Yeah. So that's really what the tower is about. But yes, the Tower of Babel is, and Babylon, yes. And when we talk about the Tower of Babylon, actually Babylon was the most wonderful city apparently, and then because of communication things went crazy.
Because I think this is such a great message to all of us, and also thank you for the Beregini communicator being here to remind us of it, because it's an ongoing process, isn't it, of learning how to communicate, because God gave us so many different languages. But even since this story in time, even though it gives us so much like treasure to have those different languages, but if we don't learn how to use our differences in a constructive way, that's how it ends up in conflict and not in service of growth. And I think, considering the world's affairs of today, we still have got a lot to learn in that domain, because I don't think that the wine wants us harm to have all this diversity. We just need to use it as a gift, like the communicator, bringing the divine down to earth, learn how to be a vessel for so many differences, but use it in the most constructive way.
And I suppose then I'm just also thinking about that, what you actually were talking about is that it's really crazy that when we have darkness, then we don't see difference, because that is when we shut our eyes, we don't really notice difference. But the moment we have light, we see all the different shapes and things. But it's the light that gives us the illumination so that we can see the difference, and we can then recognize that they are both the same side, the two sides of the same coin, really. So that's something that's also there. And how when we do communicate, there's always many levels of communication. So that's also springing for me now as we start talking.
Beautiful. And also the rock, I think it's so much wisdom. And you mentioning it, I didn't know that from the Bible, that this Tower of Babel is actually standing on the rock. So for me, I interpret it in a way like, also in the physical world, we can ground ourselves, in this foundation, like in our own truth, be those strong vessels to receive this divine communication. And even if there are all the differences around, we can keep space for that. We can hold space for all those differences if we are like grounded in this rock of wisdom, of the divine wisdom, which weaves to all of us. And so thank you.
Pleasure. And the last one, I this morning, my kind of guide told me I had to do a what we call a balancing, which is called the Genius Insight. Another connection, Genius Insight, which is the name of the app that it is. But actually, what came up when I used day 2, the communicator, if we have a look at the aura, you see that there's green and there's bluish. Can you see it?
Yes, now I can see it.
I have to kind of move. Basically, there's green coming in. I love it. It's almost like I'll picture up, but the green is cut in from the from the right hand side, and there's more green on the side. Basically, what it is for communication, we've got to bring heart. We've got to bring heart, and the heart is the green one. So if we really want to tamper any kind of thing, is to bring heart to it, so that all communication, because if we're resonating from the heart, people will hear the message, whether doesn't matter how the message is given, they'll recognize the intent of the message. Yeah. So I'm just going to do a balance while we're talking and doing our thing, because it'll balance for the next while, and you might start to feel the vibration as it goes.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Well, whilst we're waiting for this result, I will draw us a card from the Mystical Shaman Oracle card.
She was so beautiful yesterday. I'm looking forward to seeing what's today.
Rainbow. I just love it. I feel like always like a child before Christmas.
Present.
It's like opening all those presents. No, the child
again.
The child. I'm just saying, like, I'm feeling like a child.
That's amazing.
This is amazing indeed.
Yes. Wow, that's a beautiful card.
And I can resonate so well with this. And you cannot even tell if it's a boy and a girl, because it's a child. And reminds me so well of how I used to be. Like, I always used to be like, I wanted to be a boy until obviously my breast started to grow and I was not able to hide it anymore. But I can resonate with this, like, it doesn't matter, girl or the boy, is like full, like, of wonder and like all this deep symbolism, what this child is wearing, the feather, and connected to the moons, the cycle of the moons.
Oh, right. Beautiful. Yeah. There are all of those different moons there.
Yes, all different moons. And for me, this is how I feel when I'm this, like, child. It's like the Buddhists say, having a beginner's mind, like empty yourself up of everything. And only then can you really be open to receive the messages of the divine world, which is like communicating to us through spirit guides, through the symbols like we are doing today. And open for wonders.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Oh,
yes, so nice.
So happy about this child being with us. It activates my child in me as well. And the rune for today.
Let's have a look.
Turizage. It stands for the god Thor.
Thor, okay.
This is our most protective rune for the physical world. We can chant this rune, like, honestly, I do it sometimes when I need protection. It's like Thor, Thor. And if you do it quite some time and call in for some help or support, the Thor is always there to protect us. Because Turisas is also related to thorns, like when we are sometimes feel like we are being like attacked or something, to negativity or some people or bad energies, we can really chant it and like call it for Thor, or like mentally put a shield around this, the thorns.
Yeah.
And it really helps. So it's a highly protective rune, Turisage.
Nice. So this is kind of really protecting our container in a way. Yeah. Very nice. I suppose when I think of a tour, I also think of, like, in England, we have like Mam Tour. We have, like big hills, and people go and worship on the hills, which are, these particular kinds of hills. And I'm just thinking about that kind of thing where most often when you have mountains that are surrounding places, that I don't know if you've thought about the feng shui, they always say have the mountain behind you because the mountain is protecting you. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yes, that reminds me again. I didn't think about that before, but my mom used to be like a feng shui practitioner. So now that you mention it, I remember how I was very young then. She was always telling me about which energies are in which direction. I was not able to reference it. So thank you for reminding.
All these things bring in some amazing things. And I didn't know that about you. And I didn't know that your mother did feng shui. So yeah, it's a lovely memory. Yeah.
It is. I mean, unfortunately, my mom is already deceased for 14 years. But when I remember her like this, then I feel her presence and being here, because there is no distinction in other realms between time and space. So I'm just looking now if somebody has written anything in our Facebook group, because we don't want to disregard anyone who is maybe watching live. But there are no live comments yet.
I'm sure they'll come. It is Saturday afternoon after all.
Yeah, and like we just want to invite anybody, please comment later on and we will respond to you in your own time. So I think we can start to embroider now.
I think so.
So here is the symbol again. It's a bit similar like yesterday's symbol, the goddess, but it has got more lines going in all different directions, not just 4.
So it's got 6 lines basically. Well, you've got 6 on either side, so all the corners are basically taken into account. So the corners are protected in a way.
The corners are protected, yes. Like the Turisage rune comes to me right now. Yeah. Even though like there may be thorns coming from the outside world, but we are protected. And I imagine ourselves being here in the physical world, because this is the Beregini for the middle world, the Yaf, the physical world. So we are like in this little house.
Yeah.
And I also have to think about the tower. So we are in the house, in the tower, and no matter how many challenges or different like languages coming from the outside world, if we center ourselves like on the rock,
we'll be safe. Yeah,
we are safe. That's what comes to me. And the black color stands for for our ancestors, but it can also stand from they can also come from the roots, like thinking about the world tree.
Yeah.
But they can also come from above, because the future generations and the ones who came before us, they all work through us because we are interwoven with everything. So the black color can stand for both.
Wow. Okay.
I know a lot of people always think like about ancestors is connected with our roots, but it's also our upcoming generations who are also working through us.
Yeah.
Like our future selves, of our future guides. Yeah.
And I suppose then if we think about that, we could, we could look at, say, even though I know it sounds really weird, but it's like if we have lots of parallel worlds, different worlds that we could move in between of our own worlds, then that could be another world of ourself that could give us, that's even current right now, that would be able to give us information.
Yes.
I don't know why that just came up, but it said, oh, do that.
Yeah. Oh, we don't have to ask why.
Exactly.
All is welcome, because when it comes up right now, this is something for us to, to think about, to feel into it. And like for me, this bubble, the Tower of Babel, is now really alive.
Yeah, I wonder how. Yeah, I'm just thinking in a sense. I'm also thinking about, the idea of, we call a babbling brook, like a water stream. Babbling brook is another, as a saying. I don't know when you were in England.
I've never heard of it. Babbling brook.
Babbling, Babbling, yeah, babbling brook. And it's really how a brook, or when the sounds of the water when it's being swished around, and you get what you call a babbling brook. Yeah, it's really, it's a hard way to explain it, but it is. If you listen to water when it goes and it moves around, it's like babbling, almost like the babbles of Babylon. You don't know what it is, but there's something there. There's energy in it. Yeah, that came for me as I started thinking about it.
And I also didn't know that it refers to really the bubbles. Like, I didn't know that. So thank you for this new information. I mean, now that you said it, makes total sense, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
the Tower bubbles, like everything
that
is
bubbles.
like all together and squashed, and like it can be quite overwhelming, isn't it? Bubbles.
Yeah.
And how to see through it and use it constructively. Bubble brook.
Babbling brook, yeah. So that came up. Yeah, so.
And I find it so interesting just now that all three symbols from the first circle, they all have got the square shape.
Yeah.
Like the 4.
Yeah. And they all seem to be very grounding, don't they? They're all very grounding in their way. If that makes sense. So very almost earthy.
Yeah, I have to think about this rock, what you said, like Tower of Babel. This also builds the foundation, like the square, like the house is also has got like the square most of the times. It's like, we have to have a very strong foundation.
Yeah.
Before we can like climb up the tree, and going from the bottom up, different circles.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how we start with the divine, the breath word. Now, how does the divine come more to the earthly realm? That's where we start to communicate. And I'm already going a bit forward, like tomorrow is the wisdom keeper, how to really have embodied knowledge. Yeah, for me, embodied knowledge is wisdom.
Yeah.
So that makes it all more sense now that we are coming together here and weaving. Yeah.
Yeah. It does, and you said these were like the different worlds of the three part. In a way, I'm thinking, because the idea of, I was just reading recently, when you think about the three big brain centers we talk about now, we talk about the part in our root, yeah, and then a part that sits in our heart, and the part that's our head, our brain, and these three communicate, and these are in threes. And there's something about, and the heart is the communicator. The heart is, yeah, we talk, but actually the heart is the communicator. So yeah, so that's resonating there. And I suppose that given that this is 4, I'm just wondering, my thoughts was, where would you put this if we had to, thinking about this, the chakras, or when we talk about the 9 chakras, would this be in the root, or would this be, where would this be? Would this be at our sacral, our root chakra, or would this be at our feet? Where would this circle be, do you think?
Well, we kind of touched up on that, didn't we, in one of our earlier conversations? Because here we know certainly about 7 chakras.
Yeah.
But in Slavic tradition, for example, there are 9 energy centers. So what is missing, and like in the most common 7 chakras, is the root energy center, and then above the crown, which is opening up to all different dimensions up there. We don't even know how many there are. But certainly those 2 dimensions are missing in the 7 chakras. So, but here, if we're working with all 9 dimensions, circles, then I would say this is the energy center even below the root chakra.
Yeah. So which all starts.
Yes.
It's the rock. It's the rock.
It's the rock. And it's the foundation. That's probably why they're all squares.
Yeah.
Square to really build a very strong rock foundation.
Yeah.
Oh, exciting.
Well, yeah, it makes perfect sense, because the 4 is the materialization. So it's really about bringing into being, into physical being. So this makes sense, perfect sense, why it would be 4.
But I think that's so exciting, because I would have never thought about this if would we not sit here and talk about it and embroider and connect like with those energies. This is like joining geniuses between us and connecting the wisdom from the divine, the Bereginis. And just yesterday, in yesterday's podcast, because I love Michael Meets podcasts, like for years I'm listening to them every week, and he's a mythologist and a symbologist, like everything what my heart beats for. And he works like with imagination, and he's doing also genius mentoring between children, the youngsters, and elders.
Yeah.
And I just love it. And just yesterday, I listened to his podcast about gratitude and grace, and where he also says that symbolism is exactly that. It's a very old Greek word which combines knowledge and like science. And like weaves them both together. Yeah, and that's what we are doing. Like whilst we are embroidering the symbols, we connect with this like divine world, but at the same time bring deeper meaning to them, because we bring them into the physical, and to our imagination we give them new life.
We give them new life, and that is the secret, isn't it? It's really the secret of giving new life to something, giving rebirth all the time. So every time, that's what's really coming up now, is that we are rebirthing the goddess every time that we are working with her. We are rebirthing her.
That is powerful.
And your womb work there is really about the rebirthing. Yeah.
And rebirthing again and again, because we are being like constantly, we are dying and being reborn all our lives.
Exactly.
I mean, you can see it like with each breath, with out breath we release, we die, and we're being reborn. the cyclical process with every breath. If you're consciously like aware about that, it's like how sacred is our life. Like,
yeah. We bring the sacred into being. Yeah.
and it can be so simple, simply by doing some easy stitches, coming together, giving it space. Everyone how in their own possibilities.
And I'm kind of, yeah, while I'm just going through today, it just feels there's different resonance, a different resonance that we're doing. And I'm because I'm seeing that these are the number 6 and the 3 and 3. So I'm thinking how 6 is actually in the tarot is also the one of communication. So I'm curious about that. Normally, like in the 6 of Cups, you normally see people together. If you see the 6 of Wands, they're all going together because they've won whatever they won. The 6 seems to be a very powerful number, which is about collaboration and being with people. So I'm curious. We've got 4 squares of 6 lines, if you look at them, and that gives us 24.
Of course,
Great.
I'm number 6 in numerology.
Exactly.
My life's number is number 6. And it's actually a visionary. The meaning of number 6 is being a visionary. But for me, this is added up to a double 3. Yeah, 3, 33. Yeah. And the 3 has got to do with communication.
Exactly.
So the communication is filled with a lot of challenges. So the double 3 is like Michael Jackson. Double 3, they're prone to have been manic depressives, like very highly sensitive people who have got to undergo a lot of challenges in life, where they're very hard on themselves. To reach this visionary leadership potential, you have to walk through those challenges and live through them.
Yeah.
Like Albert Einstein, for example, was one, Michael Jackson, to name a few.
Yeah.
So it has got to do with communication and learn how. Well, in German, this book I've got, it says like vision and acceptance. So you have to accept all your emotions, all your different challenging like sensitivities.
Yeah.
Before you can really live the visionary lifestyle. And this is quite hard because, like with me, when I was younger, I always used to be so hard on myself. And I also used to be very depressed most of my life.
Yeah.
So I turned it against myself.
Yeah.
And this acceptance, what I think they talk about, is very hard to accept all these difficult emotions and the suffering that is actually for the good for my development. It's actually quite hard. And to the ripening, to the embodied wisdom, slowly, then you can turn it into your medicine. And it takes some life experience, I think, like the communication with ourselves and with others. It takes time and a ripening process for sure.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because, I mean, I'm just looking at what you've got there, and you've got, for when we talk about the wisdom keeper, it's almost like she goes back to just the 4 rays on either side, and which we'll look at tomorrow. But it's almost like then we cut away. So we add and then we cut away. We add and we cut away. It's just really, I mean, I'm just curious. That just kind of comes.
But for me, I just counted it, Shireen. And these are 5 lines, not 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Ah, right. Oh my God.
And whilst I'm embroidering now as well, it came to me like, no, these are not 6. Those are
Why have
five.
I got...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And I've put 6 in. I've read 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, why do you think that happened? Ooh, well, that's what I've got today. And there's never a mistake.
There is never a mistake. Never. And to me, it comes to right now the question, what is in between? Because the magic lies in the in-between words. Like between the 5 and the 6. We have got the 4. That's for sure in a square. And then there is this in between, the mystery, which has come up now, between the 5 and the 6.
Very interesting. Well, 5 and 6 makes 11, which is a magical number anyway, which we know. But yeah, 5 and 6. So there's something about transitioning, isn't there? Moving. I'll have to think on that one. Let me carry on. So,
and I have to think about the goddess Hecate now, because I'm part of the Women Wisdom School with the Awakening Women movement, and just recently we did exercises to invite the goddess Hecate, which is the goddess of free crossroads, of free faces.
Oh, wow.
Of free appearances. So you can invite her in every time when you're like in very big transitions or at the crossroad. And she is the one who can look in all different directions. Speaking of communication here.
Right. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So she comes to me right now. And she's an interesting figure because some images of her are like that she carries snakes as her head, like Medusa, and also on the bottom, and her legs are sometimes. In one of the images I looked at, she's got snakes instead of legs, and snakes above her head, and in both her hands, snakes. And wow. I mean, this is a shapeshifter par excellence. Good goodness.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there is something about the shifting, which, and it's interesting because it's no coincidence you come up with that image now that's coming up for you. So there's something about, and snake med apparently is very powerful. We know that the Kundalini is snakes. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. It's always depicted as the 2 snakes for the masculine and feminine who weave through our bodies and who weave through all our chakras. So the snakes are the key to work with all our life force energy and with all our energy centers. And I've got the snake in my shamanic painting in the back, like with the red Tara. Snake is one of my power animals. And Hecate in her powerful medicine is just very present at the moment. Yeah.
And I was talking about snakes last night, and I you don't know the story, but when I was very young, I grew up in the bush in basically Africa, and I had an encounter where I was sitting on a log, and all of a sudden, very quietly, I saw the snake come up about probably an arm away from me, and the snake was basically a mamba, which is quite and was really weird because I was watching the snake. I knew on one level, I knew that the snake was poisonous. I knew it was dangerous. But I was in a space where it came up, and I did what what was unusual. I would have run, but I didn't run. This time I sat there, I looked at the snake, and I could look at it, and I saw, because the sun was shining on it, and it's beautiful olivey, greeny brown, sort of dark, really beautiful. And I kept looking at it and thinking, why doesn't a snake blink? And the eyes were, like I could see the eyes, and they weren't blinking, and I was really surprised. and because I'd never been that close to a snake in that kind of environment that way. And I remember looking at her, and then no, it was a her. I felt it was a her. And I remember moving forward and backwards, and the snake moved forward and backward with me. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. So she was following me, whatever I was doing, she was mimicking. And we were like that for, I don't know how long, because at the time you don't know. And I was very young. I was about 7 at the time. But one thing I was not frightened. Mm-hmm. That was the strangest thing. I was not frightened of the snake. I was just very curious that, first of all, it didn't bite me. It was just watching. And you know, and it was quite incredible, because as quickly as it arrived, standing there, so, you know, up, I don't know what you'd call it, upright, standing, I don't know. And, you know, my brother started walking towards me, and it just turned around and went the opposite direction. But it was a really magical moment. And
oh yes, I bet.
Then I've always been fascinated by snakes.
Me too. My son, he's like the biggest snake specialist since he's 2 years old. You would not believe. It's like with 2 years, nobody was like believing, like, how can a 2 years old like child be interested in snakes? And it stays until today. I mean, his room is full of skin snakes, speaking about being in a transition shapeshifter, like snakes. They lose their skin at least 4 times a year. I mean, they're the biggest shapeshifters before. And I mean, he read, well, before we was able to read, I read him all the books which we have around here. He even went like on a study tours with his dad, who is Moroccan, to go and speak with snake magicians and everything. And
oh, wow.
Even until today, you're speaking about this experience with the snake. Like last Sunday, we have been to a friend to watch Harry Potter movie 2, which is where there is this massive big snake.
Oh, yeah.
And where for the first time, Harry Potter realizes that he can speak with snakes.
Yeah.
And this is a very rare gift. And my son was like, finally, there is somebody else who can do the same like me. And I get goosebumps like to that, because honestly, he's now 11, and this is now almost 9 years.
Yeah.
And I can really go and ask him, what kind of snake is this? And he knows everything about snakes. He's so totally terrified of spiders, but snakes is his specialty. And that's why obviously he's grown up. Now he looks at snakes in Ninjago, for example, or in movies, how people portray snakes. And he draws and writes stories himself. But I just love like this imagination, speaking of the child who is here today with us.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated to listen to him, because his imagination is like here in this card. It has got no limits. Yeah. So I can really ask him, what did the snake tell you? And he tells me that, or he paints it. Like in Kazakhstan last year, we were like going on a search for snakes, because there are quite a lot of snakes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fascinating. Like now the snakes are really present here. And he was very disappointed though, because he didn't see one live. He has seen a lot of them like in the sand.
Yeah.
Because Kazakhstan, most of it is like tundra. When you go outside of the big city, it's like, it's 9 times as big as Germany. I mean, it's like you don't see anything for days. Even you can drive, don't see anything. And it's dry. It's like a bit like a desert, but it's a tundra where still like dry herbs are everywhere. So you can see a lot of snakes who pass by, but obviously you need to be lucky to see them. And when we drive through there with the car or something, they just disappear. So you only see them in the sand.
Yeah.
but not like you did. Like this is very special and reminds me of my memory in Kazakhstan also, because I was brought up the first 9 years in Kazakhstan. We also had a similar encounter like you with a snake. I will never forget it. But it was not in the tundra, it was in the mountains.
Right.
And yeah, very special encounter as well. Very similar to yours. Where as a child, you're just there and you're not afraid, you're just curious and you look at this animal, and because you're curious and without fear, they don't do anything because they're more afraid of us than we of them. And it was just such a beautiful moment. Like in this moment, everything was inside, like the whole universe was in this moment. And I was one with the snake. And
yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, it is something when you have an encounter with something like that, and you go, okay, that's it. And you know that it's probably where you kind of realize that when we're little, we know something that we don't often, we lose, or we kind of cloud up over as we grow and experience life. But is that we're always sovereign. As we're born, we are as we should be. In this sense, we're born, we're gifted, and we are, and later we lose it, and then we have to reclaim it.
Yes.
Find it again. But actually that moment is there, you know, when we go back and we go, wow, okay, I didn't run, I did what was basic, what was essential. I just watched, and I didn't have fear, and I just know. And there was and there's a wisdom that comes with that.
Yes. There's a lot of wisdom which comes with that. It's like, I have to think of my son, who a lot of times says, like, people don't understand snakes. Yeah. They're so afraid of them. That's why they don't understand the wisdom.
Yeah.
And he's like really serious then, like really like a grown up. And he's like so wise when he starts speaking about the snakes. I mean, similar like you just said. Yeah. You really have to be still and you have to listen to the medicine. Yeah, to really like not be afraid, as I think is the main medicine here. To be open, yeah, because that's why they stand for all life force energy, for magic. We can use their poison for medicine. Yeah, it's like the main medicine against Parkinson, for example, is based on snakes. Poison. Yeah, and
I didn't realize that.
And I'm sure there are lots more, yeah. And also the figures are being portrayed like half snakes, and I'm always like really still and listen and then ask my son, like last Sunday, like it was so fascinating how Harry Potter was able to speak with snakes. And he was then the one who has beaten this big demon snake at the end, because he was not afraid. And most of the times in our life we are afraid. And then this wisdom cannot come through if we are afraid. Oh, wow. So I'm definitely going to look up more about Hecate today.
How do you spell it?
Hecate? Hecate.
Okay, Hecates, I think you're talking about.
Hecate. Like, I know it as Hecate, like.
I think
there's no S.
All right, okay. And it's just that I know one that's like the crown, which is what we call Hecate. Well, it's the same spelling, I think. Hecarte.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what I said. Yeah, exactly. Hecate. Yes.
Yeah, Hecate.
Exactly.
Yeah. I must have a look. Yeah, because she's one of the three phases of the moon. You see her as the crone, as the cutter away of.
Well, that's about being a shapeshifter as well, isn't she?
Yeah.
End of the Three Crossroads. There's lots of information about her on the Women Wisdom School. I will look it up again.
I'm going to use a different color today.
Very similar to Thor as well, because like with the thorns, it's very similar. We can be afraid and turning into our smaller self. When we are afraid, we are always in our ego, smaller selves, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we require it be a Thor, yeah, God Thor, Hecate, to invite these divine energies, which are not without a reason coming to us today. We can connect with them. That's what the symbol brings us. It's like connecting with those gods and ask for advice or guidance, or it can be the snake as a spirit animal.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's also about communicating with our spirit guides or gods, goddesses, could be anything which comes up, and ask for some wisdom.
Yeah.
And who asks will receive.
So I'm aware we're on 1456 or 1556 for you. So we'll have to get close to finishing.
Yes. And I don't know about you, but...
Okay, so we've had a balance, and this is what the balance came up on the picture. So we've done some balancing. Can you see it? It's got gold on the side. I'll put a thing.
I cannot really see anything.
Okay, what if I did it that way? Can you see? You know what it is? It's because of the
it's the reflection from the screen.
The reflection. Can you see now? If you look, as I'm looking now, can you see it differently?
Yes.
Okay, so you can without it with the light because of the things. So you can see there's a light beam of blue coming down, and you can see over there, and you can see the much brighter green, and this has become more golden. So I'll take a screenshot of it. I just
yes, please.
After we've done a balance, because, and I don't know whether if you felt anything or but what we just did was balance and do a balancing on there.
Well, we are doing it through the embroidering, through sharing, and now also with this frequency work on all different levels.
Yes, we're doing all sorts of things.
That's the magic.
I know.
I love it.
Great magic. Yeah.
And a few more stitches and I will be finished with today's communicator. It's like we have like really practiced being on time, but we didn't. It just happens in the creative flow, natural creative flow.
Well, I'm just putting some green on this so that, because I wanted to show up so I could see the red, and then I'll stitch with white, so I'll stitch them together for spirit. So it's the color that was calling me, so I'm just going with whatever's calling me.
And that's the only way to go, isn't it?
Yes.
Most naturally. And of course, I leave a bit an opening.
Yes.
Always important for me, I think, to have an opening for receiving the wisdom which is going to come true.
It's almost like in that the old Indian fairy tale that you leave a knot so that you know that you're not, that everything is not perfect, and you can do what is your best, and that will be good enough.
Yeah. And of course, there's this Japanese handcraft. It's called kyungai or something. I have to look it up to be really sure, but it sounds like a kyungai, where they repair broken things with gold.
Oh wow! Oh wow! That's
a very, very old handcraft from Japan.
Yeah.
And there is this wisdom chin because nobody of us is perfect. But if we work from our genius self,
Yeah.
and put that over it, then our imperfections become the most beautiful medicine in the world.
Yeah.
Kyungai, I think it's called.
Guy.
I can share that. So
Yes,
it's point
really
4, bang on time.
Yeah.
So this is my Beregini of communication. And boy, have we been communicating like with Hekata and snakes and the groundness of Tower Babel.
Well, it's been really interesting because we've just kind of gone from one thing to another, and each of those things seem are absolutely intrinsically connected in some way. It adds a richness to our life. Yeah.
Yes,
a richness
definitely.
and an essence. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
And thank you everybody who is weaving with us and is on this thread together with us. Everyone in her own timing or in their timing. Maybe there are men around there as well who are weaving, who knows. And
yeah, put your Bereginis in the chat, which would be really nice.
Yes. That was already yesterday so nice to see some others' works and sharings.
Oh, it was lovely. For that. Yes, it was really lovely to see. So I'm looking forward to seeing some more.
Me too.
All right.
Okay,
well,
thank you, Shireen.
Enjoy your painting. Yeah.
I'm sure I will enjoy the rest of the Saturday. And
yes,
we see each other tomorrow again.
We see each other. Yes, it's a date.
Yes, it's a date. With us and all the divine goddesses.
Exactly.
Bye-bye for now. Many
Bye-bye.
blessings. Plagadoo.
Plagadoo. Bye-bye. There we are.
I have to really rush off, so I'm saying here
rush.
Bye-bye as well.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, love.
Enjoy.
Thank you. You too.